Surprisingly, over 90% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It motivates us to keep creating and helps us never miss an upload. I had spent weeks planning the surprise. My wife, Hannah, had worked hard for months on a campaign her firm had pitched to a massive client, and her efforts were finally being recognized. She was nominated for an award that could boost her career to the next level. I knew how much it meant to her, and I wanted to show that I was behind her every step of the way. She told me she would be staying overnight at the hotel hosting the ceremony, surrounded by colleagues and clients with little time for me to tag along. I pretended to accept it, but secretly, I arranged to come anyway. I bought a new suit, polished my shoes, and carried with me a small gift I knew she'd love, a bracelet she had admired months earlier. After my shift, I drove straight to the hotel, rehearsing in my head how I'd surprise her. I imagined the look on her face when I walked into her room with the award she had worked so hard for. The joy in her eyes when she saw the bracelet, the hug we'd share when the stress of her career faded into the background, if only for a moment. I checked in quietly, asked the concierge about her room, and headed upstairs with my heart pounding in anticipation. Every step closer to her door, I felt my excitement grow. I wanted her to know I noticed her hard work, that I cared, that she wasn't alone in any of it. When I reached the door, I knocked gently at first, then tried the handle. To my surprise, it wasn't locked. Smiling, I pushed it open, ready to call out her name. The smile froze on my face instantly. Hannah was there, but not alone. She was in bed with someone else. I froze in the doorway, my hands trembling around the gift bag still dangling from my fingers. The man wasn't just anyone. He was a client. I recognized him from her stories, the one she claimed had been difficult to win over, the one she bragged about securing for the firm. And there he was, half covered by the sheets, with Hannah beside him, their laughter dying the second they saw me standing there. For a moment, no one moved. My wife's eyes widened, her face draining of color. "Martin," she whispered, clutching the blanket tighter against her chest. The client sat up awkwardly, fumbling for words. I should go." My body felt like stone, my throat dry. I couldn't speak, couldn't yell, couldn't even drop the bag in my hand. I had imagined surprising her with love, but the surprise had been mine, and it cut deeper than I thought possible. Hannah scrambled off the bed, stammering, "It's not what it looks like." But I cut her off with a raised hand. My voice was calm, steady, though it shook inside me. Don't say those words. You know exactly what it looks like." Her lips quivered, tears welling in her eyes. "Please, just let me explain." The client grabbed his jacket and slipped past me, avoiding my gaze like a coward. I didn't stop him. My focus was only on her. I stepped further into the room, set the bag down on the table, and looked at her. "I came here to surprise you. I came here because I was proud of you. And this is what I find?" Her tears spilled, her hands trembling. "Martin, I was drunk. It was stupid. Stop," I said sharply. "Just stop. Don't make excuses. Don't insult me further by pretending this was an accident." She broke down then, sobbing, covering her face with her hands. I stood there, numb, every ounce of energy draining from me. I had nothing left to give. Without another word, I turned and walked out. I left the gift bag behind on the table, the bracelet still inside, along with the award plaque I had picked up at the ceremony's front desk when her firm announced her win. She could keep them both. They meant nothing to me now. That night I drove home in silence, the road a blur. My mind replayed the moment on a loop, the laughter dying, the shock on her face, the way she reached for excuses instead of honesty. I had worked endless hours to give her stability, sacrificed sleep to keep our home together. And in return, she gave herself to someone who saw her as a transaction. When I reached the house, I stood in the doorway for a long time, staring into the place we had built together. The photos on the wall, the furniture we chose, the life we had shared. It all felt hollow now. I walked through each room slowly, collecting what mattered most to me. Important documents, sentimental items, things Hannah had no right to claim anymore. By the time the sun began to rise, I had packed what I needed into my car. Then I made one final walk through the house. I looked at the pictures one last time, at the bed we had shared, at the kitchen where we had laughed, and I felt nothing but emptiness. That morning, I closed the door behind me. By the time Hannah returned home from the hotel, dragging her suitcase and excuses with her, the house was stripped bare. Furniture gone. Closets empty. Bank accounts drained into a separate one she couldn't access. The silence of the house greeted her louder than any confrontation ever could. Her whole world had shifted in a single night, and it was only the beginning. When Hannah finally came home from the hotel, dragging her suitcase behind her, the expression on her face said everything. She had rehearsed excuses, lined up apologies, maybe even planned to beg for forgiveness. But when she unlocked the door and stepped inside, the silence swallowed her whole. No couch, no dining table, no pictures on the walls. The bed stripped bare, closets empty, drawers pulled clean. She dropped her suitcase in shock, her mouth falling open. "Martin?" she called out, her voice echoing through the hollow rooms. There was no answer. She stumbled from room to room, panic rising with each discovery. Her jewelry box, gone. Our savings account. We both knew I'd moved the money, because I was the one who managed it. Her laptop, her favorite designer purse, all missing. I had taken everything important and left her only the shell of the life she thought she controlled. She collapsed onto the floor in the living room, sobbing into her hands. I wasn't there to see it, but I didn't need to. I knew her well enough to imagine the moment perfectly. My phone buzzed relentlessly that night. Calls, texts, voicemails, all from her. "Please, Martin, we can fix this. I love you. It was a mistake, I swear. Don't do this to us. Where are you? Please talk to me. I'll do anything." I didn't answer. The next morning, I had already set up in a small apartment across town. It wasn't much, but it was enough for me to breathe, enough for me to start fresh, enough for me to focus on what mattered, myself. Hannah showed up at my workplace later that day, her eyes swollen from crying. She waited near my car, her hands trembling as she reached for me. "Martin, please, you can't just walk away. We've built a life together." I looked at her coldly. "You destroyed that life the moment you chose him." She shook her head violently. "It was one time, one mistake. I was drunk, it didn't mean anything." I laughed bitterly. "Funny. I came to surprise you with an award, with a gift, with support. And what did you give me in return? Lies. Betrayal. Do you know how pathetic that is?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. She tried to grab my arm, but I pulled away. "Please, don't do this. Don't leave me with nothing." "That's exactly what you left me with," I said flatly. "Nothing." I got into my car and drove away, leaving her standing in the parking lot, broken. But the real unraveling was just beginning. Over the next week, I made sure she felt the weight of her choices. I contacted her firm anonymously, forwarding screenshots I had taken from her messages with the client. I didn't need to add commentary. The evidence spoke for itself. Within days, whispers spread through her office. The client pulled his account, embarrassed by the scandal. Hannah's boss called her in, furious, and stripped her of the recognition she had craved so badly. The award that was supposed to launch her career became a symbol of her downfall. She tried to explain, tried to spin it as lies, but the truth was written in her own words. She was suspended indefinitely. Her calls to me grew more desperate. "You're ruining my life. Please stop. Martin, I was wrong. I see that now. Please don't destroy me. I can't lose everything. I need you. I need us." I never replied. Silence was louder than anger, more punishing than insults. One evening, she showed up at my apartment uninvited. She pounded on the door until my neighbor peeked out curiously. When I finally opened it, her face was streaked with mascara, her voice raw. "Please, Martin, just let me in. Let me explain." I stood in the doorway blocking her. "There's nothing left to explain. I don't want you here." Her lip quivered. "I don't have anywhere else to go." "Not my problem," I said coldly, shutting the door in her face. I could hear her sobbing in the hallway for a long time, but I didn't open it again. A few days later, I learned she had moved in with her sister temporarily. Friends we once shared began reaching out, curious about the split. I didn't lie, but I didn't need to tell the whole story either. People could draw their own conclusions, and they did. Her reputation crumbled quietly, not because I screamed it from rooftops, but because the truth always has a way of surfacing. Meanwhile, I focused on myself. I poured energy into work, into reconnecting with hobbies I had abandoned, into building a version of my life where Hannah had no place. Weeks later, she reached out again, her tone different. No longer pleading. Now she was angry. You can't just erase me. I gave you years of my life. You think you're better than me? You're nothing without me. You'll regret this when you're alone. Her fury only confirmed what I already knew. She wasn't sorry for what she had done. She was sorry she got caught. She was sorry she lost everything. And that made walking away even easier. The night I left her with nothing but an empty house wasn't the end. It was the beginning of her slow collapse. She lost her home, her savings, her career, and the one person who had truly loved her. The client she risked it all for disappeared the moment things got messy. She was left with silence. And silence, I realized, is the loudest revenge of all. Hannah's life began unraveling faster than even I expected. It was like watching a structure that looked strong from the outside suddenly collapse once its foundation cracked. She tried to hold it together, tried to maintain the image of control, but every step she took only pulled her deeper into the hole she had dug for herself. When her firm suspended her, she thought she could salvage it with charm. She called her boss, begged for another chance, promised it would never happen again. But the client she had slept with, her prized account, pulled out immediately. He didn't want the scandal tied to his company. Her victory became her undoing. Within a week she was terminated. She called me the same day she got the news. Her voice trembled, a mixture of fear and rage. "Martin, please, you don't understand. I need your help. I can't lose my job, my career. This was everything I worked for." I let the silence hang before I answered. "You should have thought about that before you invited him into your bed." She gasped, her sobs breaking through the line. "I was stupid, I was selfish, please just help me. You can talk to them, tell them it was all a misunderstanding." I almost laughed. "Why would I save you from the mess you made yourself?" Her sobs turned into fury. "You can't just ruin me like this. You can't walk away from everything we built." "I didn't ruin anything," I said coldly. "You did." And then I hung up. Days turned into weeks, and her desperation grew. I started hearing from mutual friends. Hannah was showing up at their places in tears, telling half-truths about our separation. She painted herself as the victim, claiming I abandoned her out of nowhere. But lies don't survive long. People talk, and soon enough, they learned the truth. A picture of her with the client at the hotel circulated quietly among her colleagues and friends. Whispers spread, invitations to dinners, parties, and social gatherings dried up. She had burned her career and her reputation in one night. Her lover, the client she had risked everything for, disappeared completely. He stopped answering her calls. He blocked her on every platform. She was nothing to him, just a distraction, a convenience. And once she was exposed, she became a liability. One evening, I received a message from her sister. "She's not doing well. She sits in her room all day crying. I don't know what to do. Maybe you should talk to her." I stared at the message for a long time before replying. She made her choice. She can live with it. The truth was, I no longer felt anger, not even hatred, just emptiness. She had taken so much from me, my trust, my time, my energy, but she hadn't destroyed me. I had walked away with my dignity intact, while she was left clutching the ashes of what she thought was unshakable. Weeks later, she showed up at my apartment again. This time, she looked different. Her makeup was smudged, her clothes wrinkled, her eyes hollow. She wasn't the polished, ambitious woman I had once admired. She was broken. When I opened the door, she dropped to her knees right there in the hallway. "Martin, please," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "I've lost everything. My job, my friends, my family barely speaks to me. I need you. Please don't let this be the end." I stood over her, calm, detached. "It was the end the night you chose him over us. The night you laughed with him in that hotel bed while I stood there holding your award and the gift I bought for you." She sobbed harder, clutching at my leg. "I was wrong. I see it now. You were the only one who ever truly loved me. I'll do anything to fix this." I pulled my leg away and shook my head. "You can't fix what you destroyed." Her tears fell onto the floor as she broke down completely. I closed the door gently, leaving her collapsed in the hallway. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to insult her. The silence was punishment enough. Months passed. Divorce papers were finalized quickly, with me holding the upper hand in every negotiation. I kept the assets I had moved, the things that mattered, and left her with little more than debts and memories. She signed them through tears, knowing she had no leverage. By the time it was over, she was living alone in a small rental, working part-time jobs that didn't come close to matching the career she had destroyed. She reached out occasionally, short messages filled with regret. I miss you. I can't believe what I threw away. I'll never forgive myself. I never replied. One day, I saw her on the street by chance. She looked older, worn down, carrying grocery bags that seemed too heavy for her. When she noticed me, her eyes lit up with hope, then quickly dimmed when she saw I wasn't stopping. I walked past her without a word, not out of cruelty, but because the chapter was closed. She had made her bed in that hotel room. Now she was forced to lie in it, alone. My revenge wasn't in taking her down publicly. It wasn't in screaming or shaming her. It was in walking away quietly, leaving her with nothing but the consequences of her actions. The night I left her with an empty house was just the first blow. The silence, the evidence, the life rebuilt without her. That was the real revenge. Because now, every time she looks back, she doesn't just remember the affair. She remembers the emptiness. The moment she walked into our home and found it stripped bare, the way her world collapsed in an instant. And I know, without a doubt, that memory will haunt her longer than I ever could.